Okay, it's go time. Hi all, thanks for joining this panel about the convergence of sports and sports fandom. I'm just going to have the panelists just to start, go down and say your name, your preferred pronouns, and a little brief reason of why you were drawn to being on this panel.
Cool. What's up, everybody? I'm Janelle Kloth, to be exact. Who am I right now, though? Thank you. Okay. You better see 2.0, you guys. Otherwise, I'm gonna be mad. And my pronouns are she, her, or hotbot. And I was drawn to this panel because I love sports and the Comic Cons. So here I am.
I'm Stephanie Cranford, also she, her. I was drawn to this panel because it was on the list for last year, and I was like, hell yeah. And then there weren't enough people to do it, but I knew he was coming. So I said to programming, hey, we're gonna have this panel next year, by the way. And then I talked Chris into being it.
Hi, I'm Chris Kluwe, pronouns he, him, and I'm on this panel because I played professional sports. And I'm also a huge nerd, so I feel like there's some intersectionality there.
And hi, I'm Kendrick. I use he, him pronouns. I do not play pro hockey. I do play Lexa Pro Hockey. Thanks to my anxiety. It's a really great time. I coach for 2 different teams here in the Twin Cities. I play for Twin Cities Queer Hockey Association. I also play for Team Trans International. Woo! I've only played for 3 years. I'm still like a peewee adult level. It's really fun. It's a great time. Can I say upright cops the game? Yes. Until I get taken up by somebody's booty. It happens at least once again, but it's very fun. Yeah, and so what led me to this panel is enthusiasm, chaos, and getting to point out that yes, sports wear is, like jerseys and stuff, is in fact cosplay. I am wearing 2 cosplays right now. I'm also dressed as Bucky Barnes from the Avengers, but as the summer soldier, because it is too hot. The best thing about hockey is getting to microdose winter in the summer.
I'm Erik, moderator. He, him. And I was drawn to this panel because my first memory is watching Star Wars. And my first pictures of myself that I recognize are me in a Twins uniform. And I went as Halloween 10 years in a row. So I just want to start by saying to all of you, if you have any questions, feel free to raise the different color construction paper next to you. Thank you. I'm intending on this to be a conversation both between us and also with the audience. I'll try to save some time at the end for questions, but please ask them throughout. I'll try to notice you when you do. And just to start with the panelists, I was hoping that maybe you could talk a little bit more detail about how your relationship as a sports fan and as a nerd intersect and what led you to that identity. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Did anybody, real quick, anybody see my show last night? Janelle, did you talk really fast? Was anybody there? Okay, well, in that show, thank you, nobody, for coming. All right, cool, it was great. In that show, I talk about a story, and I call it my High School Musical story because I literally was Troy Bolton in high school. If anybody's seen High School Musical, he was a basketball player who auditioned for theater secretly. And I truly did that. So the intersection came from that I always started playing sports, basketball, soccer, softball, things like that. And then I had always been a performance actor, entertainer person, but I never acted on it. And when I finally did and they came together, I was like, I love both these things. So now, that's my identity, is I love sports and nerd stuff, theater, and all the arts as well, pretty equally. And yeah, that's it. I'll go hang out with the bros. Let's get drunk at the bar, and then let's come to a Comic-Con and dress up and look fun.
I'm a nerd from a family full of nerds. My parents both have degrees in music, which is probably like the 3rd nerdiest degree. Nonetheless, I also have a degree in music, so I'm an expert on how nerdy we are. So like I distinctly remember, you know, we used to tape the reruns of Star Trek: The Next Generation. So like when it was just first in syndication, so you know, like maybe 1990 at the latest. But also, my parents took me to a baseball game when I was not quite 2 years old, and we still had like the ticket stuff for it. Do I remember that? Obviously not. But I was very lucky that I grew up with my minor league baseball team being the Toledo Mudhens. Do we have any MASH fans in the audience? Wow, one, congratulations, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. And then, because my family was like big baseball people, my mother really likes football. And then in 1996, we aimed the antenna up north because we had one of those antennas on the top of the house. Did I mention my dad's a nerd? And I found the Detroit stations and also the Windsor stations, and I discovered hockey, which I did not grow up in Minnesota, so it wasn't like being pushed on me every single minute of every day. No. But in 1996, I lived 1 hour south of Detroit, and the best goddamn hockey team in the country was the Detroit Red Wings. And I watched the game where Chris Draper got his face punched in, and absolutely fell in love with the sport. 1 year later, we got women's hockey, which is even better. Despite the fact that I'm sitting here with a whole bunch of men's hockey gear, but in any case, go PWHL.
Yeah.
Questionable about Minnesota.
Hey.
All right, so yeah, I grew up playing a lot of sports. I really enjoyed playing soccer and baseball. I also grew up reading a lot of sci-fi fantasy and playing video games and trying to play D&D with my friends, but no one ever wanted to be the DM, so never really quite got the game off the ground. But yeah, it was for me. It was very much. I was born in 1981, so growing up in like the early to mid 90s, there's still very much that kind of like jock geek dichotomy, whereas like you were either a jock or you were a geek, and I didn't understand why that was the case, because I wanted to do both, and I just kept doing both. So I was the kid who showed up at football with a book, because football's boring. And all I needed to do was be out on the field on 4th down, and then my coach had to tell me, stop bringing books to the game. So yeah, it's for me, it's always been, I like to do a lot of different things. I like being good at different things, and people have different hobbies, and it's okay for someone to have a hobby that you don't enjoy, and it's okay for them to have a hobby that you do enjoy. I mean, everyone has hobbies, and so let them have their hobbies.
And for me, growing up in a little tiny town in Massachusetts, and just loving all the Boston sports teams, that they were definitely shoved down my throat, but it's also just like extremely cultural there. I never had a Boston accent, but my parents have some of the thickest Boston accents I've ever heard in my life. It's amazing. And yeah, like multiple generations of my family. Just I remember growing up and watching the games with everyone, and in between sports games, it would be Star Wars marathons, or Indiana Jones was my dad's other favorite fandom, and it's incredible. And so this is all his influence. You're welcome. And yeah, so it was really fun. I never really played sports as a kid. I did karate, I did fencing in high school. I was always more into theater and dance myself. My sister was actually the sports nerd. And then somewhere in her adulthood, we kind of like switched up and became a little bit more stereotypical, which is kind of funny. But yeah, I love it, and it's funny too, like how much overlap there is, especially I don't know half the teams I play on, how many absolute nerds there are there, and like I know a couple of my hockey friends are also running around the con. It's fantastic, and yeah, they're both just so fun and satisfying, and it is really funny though when we go to a game. Also, it was very tough not to bring also my Boston and Minnesota PWHL jerseys, and like my Wild and Boston gear, and just like keep changing jerseys.
That was actually my original plan.
Yes.
But then the weather flew.
Yes, exactly.
So the jersey's on my lap right now. Sorry.
Yeah. So is this band from this really cool tiny town.
Just as a little bit more about our panelists, I was hoping that maybe you could say what a couple of your favorite fandoms are, both sports fandoms and nerd fandoms, and if there are any ways that those unexpectedly or expectedly intersect.
We want to line stuff.
I think we should go backwards this time.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start. That's cool. Actually, my two roommates and I have been marathoning the Mighty Ducks movies. A lot of the hockey that I play is actually at Parade Ice Garden, where a lot of those movies was filmed. We had a really good time joking about like how you cannot actually rollerblade through the skyways all the way to the Mall of America. I wish you could. That would save me a lot of gas money. But yeah, I loved sports movies growing up. I love them now. I think they're really fun. Miracle was something that my dad was really passionate about and showed me as a younger person, and it was a big influence. And I remember Remember the Titans was huge when I was a kid. Like they're just such incredible stories to tell, and It's a vehicle to shed light on social issues, just like a lot of fandoms are. And some of my fandoms, you know, influenced by my dad. I love Star Wars, I love Indiana Jones, but I also love the Marvel movies. That's Bucky. I love the Disney princesses. I've been a bunch of different gender-bent Disney princesses in my time at CONvergence. I love a good story. I'm a sucker for a good story, and so sports and fandom has that overlap for me.
Cool. So I'm not actually a sports fan.
What?
Who are you? You've been lied to.
No, so growing up, like my dad would try to get me interested in watching sports, and I'd be like, well, no, I want to play video games. I want to use the TV to play on the NES or the SNES, whatever it happened to be at the time. And growing up, it was like, why am I watching these when I can go do these? And obviously I am fortunate enough to be able to do that, but for whatever reason, sports never really caught on with me. Although I do have a soft spot in my heart for the Vikings fandom. It has been a long and lonely journey for Vikings fans.
Hey.
Both drama and sport.
Yep,
We almost did it last year. Come on.
Right. And the thing I love about the Vikings is that we always find interesting ways to screw it up. It's always something new, which I mean, it really kind of it appeals to me. It's sort of that underdog spirit. In terms of like nerdy stuff, I mean, I love playing video games. I played a ton of Path of Exile. I used to be really big into Warhammer and War Machine. I don't paint the miniatures as much anymore, although I still have all of them. My kids are kind of starting to get into that. They're playing a lot of D&D these days, and so I actually DM'd my kids' first D&D session, which was really cool. Yeah, so they had a really fun adventure up until the point where my older one touched the thing that shouldn't have been touched after 3 warnings. I'm like, well, here come the consequences. So yeah,
Parenting through D&D.
So,
That's a different panel.
right. But I enjoy both. I do appreciate watching sports, but I've never been a fan of a particular team because it's like I do it, right?
That's fair.
I mean, yeah.
You seem to like complaining about UCLA.
Yeah. I did play at UCLA, but also we were really bad when I was there, so it was good for me because I got to punt a lot, but it's not great for the rest of the team.
I really like, so one of the things I like about sports, to be precise, I'm obviously a Wild fan, which is not obvious if you can't see the sweater I'm holding on to, sorry. I follow, so that's kind of the primary team I follow, other than, I was following PWHL Minnesota, and then they decided to draft a known bigot, and I decided maybe I'm a fan of PWHL Ottawa right now. Then they won, and I'm like, God damn it. So anyway, women's sports teams can win in this state, for the record. Men, I'm real sorry. But another thing I really like is sports fandom. So when you talked about, kind of observing the Vikings fans, it's like that. Gritty is another example of sports fandom. I do not have any feelings one way or another about the Philadelphia Flyers. They have one player that I really liked when he was here. I still have a soft spot for Nick Delorier. But whatever, the rest of the team is in the other division. I don't care about them. However, Gritty is the greatest chaos monster, cryptid, whatever on the planet. If you haven't seen the video of Gritty on stage at the American Library Association from last week, it is just absolutely chef's kiss.
I would die for Gritty.
We would all die for Gritty. Die for Gritty. In other fandoms, I'm kind of probably my primary one would be historical romance novels. We can talk about that later. It's a little less science fiction-y than all the rest of us. But I also yesterday I was dressed as a Murderbot thing. So yay Murderbot. Etc. Let's move on.
Cool. Once again, I'm Janelle. I'm just gonna say it, okay? And my fandoms, let's see, for sports, I am a Minnesota girly. So all the Minnesota teams is what I grew up with, what I love. Definitely for the main sports, Vikings and Timberwolves are my number one. I don't love baseball, so Twins are fun when I'm there just watching, but baseball's so long, so it takes me out a little bit. And then I followed the Lynx a lot too. I worked there for a hot minute with the Lynx at the Target Center, and I was there for one of their championships. It was a good dynasty for a while. So I would say those are probably the teams I'm most into. I definitely watched a while, but I'm kind of looped in all of them. Other than that, my whole family, including me, are U of M alumni. So go for games, go for games, go for games. I've been watching them with my dad since I can remember, since we moved to Minnesota. So lots of go for sports for Janelle. Other than that, I live in Chicago now. So I live right next to Wrigley Field. And the most interesting thing that I think about that, if anybody here has been to Chicago, Wrigley Field Clark Street is the main sports hub. Tons of bars, all the sports heads go there and have a great time. If you go a couple streets over, you get North Halsted, which is Boys Town, which is the gay area. So the wildest, the last weekend with Pride, and the Cubs game, you are like, the intersection of sports and art, let me tell you. It's happening in Chicago, and it is the wildest thing to see. The sports people go to the gay bars, the gay people go to the sports bar. It's insane, and it kind of makes me think of this panel, literally. And just how it works with very different people, but kind of also like, well, that looks fun, and that also looks fun. And then when it comes to like fandoms, otherwise, I'm a big Harry Potter girly, all about it, that's what I'm in. I also played World of Warcraft for many years, so I do love World of Warcraft. Other than that, my fandom's pretty basic, you guys. I'm a Barbie girl. I love Stranger Things, like all the normal nonsense stuff, and I love Disney. So yeah, I'm pretty basic, if you will, when it comes to fandoms.
I have a pretty tortured relationship with the Vikings, as someone who has seen them torture my grandmother and mother. It hasn't stopped me from being a Vikings fan, and I think also in terms of like my fandom, sci-fi and fantasy draws me towards lovable losers. I think like that is why I love Firefly so much. It's a group of misfits who are just doing their best, which I think is maybe the best way to describe the Vikings.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's the Vikings.
I think that, and that's even like led to the other sports I choose. Like I think my primary sports fandom right now is I'm a Liverpool fan, and at the time they hadn't won the league in 30 years, and so it's like I choose some, even when I'm not actively seeking out lovable losers, they sometimes still find a way to find me, which is great.
Wait, you went for Liverpool over Everton?
Yeah, again, it was 20 years ago. It just like, yeah, you see that. I saw the red and I was hooked. So. Actually, someone I think brought up maybe the differences in terms of the fan experience, but I want to talk a little bit about what I see as the primary difference in sports versus other kinds of nerddom, which is social acceptance. And I was wondering, as panelists, if you could reflect on why you think that might be, and also if you think that has changed and how that so much of nerddom has been embraced by so much more of the culture.
Well, I mean, I can obviously speak to that from firsthand experience. In that, growing up, there was a very big divide between, being a sports person and being a nerd. And there was not any crossover between the two, at least, for me personally. And then, I'll never forget it, because when I got to the NFL, the vast majority of the locker room, these were guys who grew up, in like the 80s and 90s, and they did not understand anything about video games, nerd culture, whatever it happened to be. That was not their thing. However, when I became the veteran, so right around like probably 2008, 2009, that was when the kids who had grown up with an Xbox in the house, with a PlayStation in the house, with a computer and access to the internet in the house, like now they are just finishing college and coming into the pros, and these are people who legit like video games. They like nerd culture. Like there was one guy I remember from training camp, he played Final Fantasy 11. And I was just like, oh my God, I play a lot of grindy games, but like Final Fantasy 11 is on a different level. So yeah, no, it's really, there has been this drastic shift in the idea of that as a nerd, it's now socially acceptable for that to be the case, let alone if you're an athlete or not. And I think it's because for a long time, being an athlete was socially acceptable because that's what you saw on TV, right? Like that's what everyone wanted to be. Nowadays, it's like, okay, cool, yeah, everyone still wants to be athletes, but you also want to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know, you want to be like part of Firefly. Like you want to be part of this culture, and you know, it really has been a giant shift in terms of how it's viewed, which I think is for the better.
And speaking of video games, it's also interesting to bring up like how many sports games there have been in my lifetime. I mean, I was born in '91, so like I remember seeing like the NFL games and the Madden games and like everything of like that kind. And now they have the PWHL players in the NHL games. It's really cool. We love to see growth. But they've also been such boys clubs for so long, right? And so like being a trans person and getting to sports is also, for whatever reason, complicated, even though, you know, it doesn't, I wish it made me really good at sports, it doesn't. NHL, I'm not coming for you, I wish. No, I don't wish I was being a therapist. But, you know, I wish it made us good at things automatically, it just doesn't. But if it did, it would be us trans guys who get to be on testosterone, that would make us a little easier in sports, so maybe leave the trans ladies alone, but, you know, it's fine. But again, going back to what I was saying, like again, the video games part of it, and like I remember watching The Princess Bride, and I think the grandson in it was like playing like some kind of sports video game, if I remember correctly. Again, another thank you, Dad. Best dad ever. But yeah, it was incredible. Like, and like, I don't know, just getting to see those things come together, like Chris was talking about, is very cool.
Another complication that I didn't really, so here's the thing, I'm like horrifyingly uncoordinated. So team sports were absolutely out. I did run like half marathons and marathons for a long time, and it was very weird to me that like I'd be going out every weekend and like either running on the trails or helping at a race or something like that, and I'd be like, oh my God. And admittedly, literally everyone I was talking to was a nerd, because those were my friends, but it was like, wait a second, when did I become a jock? Because I'm the same age as Chris, so we grew up in like the same era of, oh my God, there's the jocks at this table and the nerds, and specifically for me, as a girl, the girl jocks were also all in FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and I was not. And so there was also this like extra kind of, I mean, I'm culturally Christian, I was raised Lutheran, blah, blah, whatever, but my family quit going to church when I was like 10, because they were like, we can't deal with this, you know? And so like the people who like got super into like the mega church thing in the late 90s, like did not connect with me, obviously. So there was an extra like weird divide in my school. And I don't think that's unusual, because like if you listen to any athlete, you know, who just wins an award or something, the first person they think is God, basically. And I'm like, you don't have to be super religious to be a famous athlete, unless there's something I don't know about Chris. I don't think he is.
Truthfully agnostic.
Huge sports fan.
But also, it's very weird when people do mention, you know, do not mention religion in that sort of situation. And so, like, I was never going to be a jock until all of a sudden I was. And let me tell you, trail runners are like the biggest freaking nerds out there, because it's basically, you run for a while, you eat, you spend all your time thinking about, okay, if I take in this many calories and I run this many miles and everything, then I can do this in exactly 23 hours and 47 minutes and all this other stuff. Also, half of them are doctors. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I've like I said with that, I was troubled. So I've lived both worlds, and the most interesting thing to me is when I am hanging out with the sports fandom people versus hanging out with the people who are more nerds or into cons or into more of the entertainment medium, it is still a different vibe. And I want to say that it's not like that today, but it truly is. When I tell people that I go to Comic-Cons, they're mostly like, what? What do you know when you like dress up? That's the thing, they don't even know they exist. Like, it blows my mind how so separated and unknowing that each are. And then I've talked to people in our community who are like, ugh, sports, ugh, why do you like that? What, that's dumb. Like, it's just as judgy on both sides. And the biggest thing that I always say is that no matter what side you're on, I'm like, yeah, but you've dabbled. You've dabbled. I'm sorry, sports bros, you're not playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare all the time.
You went to see the Marvel's Avengers. You absolutely did. That movie made like $68 billion.
Exactly.
I know you saw it.
And so like, but they're still deemed the cool parts of the entertainment world that you're allowed to engage in when you're a sports person. And then when you're a nerd, you're like, ugh, I don't know anything about football, but their colors are kind of cool in their uniform. And, or wait, did they just mention something that I like in an interview? Like, so the fact that there's still a divide is insane. The acceptance has gotten better, but it's not where I think it should be, because I've literally heard both sides.
And I think a lot of it comes down to self-identification and self-perception. And some of, like you were saying, sometimes it's people hide that identity from themselves.
Yes.
And there are, and Chris can obviously speak to this, there are athletes, professional athletes who are nerds. I think Tim Duncan plays Dungeons and Dragons. There are certainly like many other examples, but I can't speak to whether or not they consider themselves a nerd. I think Andrew Luck introduced Settle Catan to the Colts locker room, things like that.
This is a different panel, by the way. It's called Knights of Sports Ball.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. No, I know that there's been a couple of guys. I think there was one defensive lineman when I was playing. He called himself the Black Otaku. Was very much into anime. I forget his actual name, but he's huge anime.
Mike Daniels on the Packers.
Yeah, I think he played for the Packers. Yeah.
Mike Daniels.
Mike Daniels.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Thank
You don't remember every player, Chris, and all their names?
I know it's so strange.
Well, it's also interesting to consider like which sports, like which things, because like the sport I did when I was younger, like I was in high school, I was a fencer, and the fencing team was so freaking nerdy, y'all. Like they were having arguments about Star Trek versus Star Wars in the locker rooms. Like it's the fencers. Like come on. And sometimes I was too nerdy for them, which is embarrassing and also delightful. But yeah, like it's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I'd also like all of your perspectives on whether or not this distinction is even like still relevant when we talk about esports, and
Yeah.
not to mention all the other ways in which the sports are related, but there are now, you can follow teams of people playing video games.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I've actually advocated for esports as like an actual sport for a long time because, again, there are differences between sports, right? Like we don't expect baseball players to do the same thing as football players, but we don't expect golfers to do the same thing as hockey players. Like esports players are athletes in their specific sphere, the same way as a baseball player is an athlete in their specific sphere. And like again, it comes down to how much time are you putting into it, how good are you at it, and are you at the very peak of your profession, right? And like if you are doing something well enough that other people are going to pay money to watch you do that thing, you're probably a professional. Like that is the definition of being a professional. And esports is sports. It just happens to take place on a computer screen as opposed to on a field.
Green X.
Well, I just think that I've always loved sports and been a big geek, always. But I just think to me, it's horribly amusing because both groups take shots at each other.
Mm-hmm.
And the sports fans, oh, you guys are all cosplaying, whatever. Never mind that every single one of them is wearing a jersey.
Painted faces.
Or like the statistics
never
of
mind
it all.
that. And on the geek side, you've got, oh, I hate sports ball and whatever. I don't understand how this sports ball thing works. And yet you have sports people and geeks that are into mathematics and statistics and can quote you all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Engineering and whatever.
Yeah, it's
And the sports guy says, well, I'm not into science, but they can talk to you about batting averages and various other types of sports statistics.
Or the physics of
When
kicking
you
a
look at
football.
all of that, when you look at all of that, it's all the same.
Yeah, it's a great point. Thank
It
you.
is. It's all the same.
The person in the Packers hat.
Darren.
So on the notion of esports, athleticism, I guess I'm going to call it specifically. I would say that what we're calling esports is competitive, right? But I look at athletes, professional athletes, in many sports that we would talk about, as people who are using their whole bodies, more or less, to do the thing. Swimmers, football players, baseball players, even golfers, they train physically, on the whole to do a thing.
Right.
I look at esports as being a little different and think of like, okay, maybe a performance, a competitive performance. Is that a sport or is that something else?
I would. Oh, go ahead.
So I was going to say, from my professional opinion,
You have authority here.
yeah, so the level of reflexes required to compete at a professional esports level is almost exactly the same as the level of reflexes required to hit a baseball.
Yeah.
Like just because you're not using your whole body to do it doesn't lessen the fact that you still need to have the hand-eye coordination, you still need to have the mental focus to be able to do it. And a lot of esports teams actually are looking into having their athletes train more physically, because when you get into matches that are going for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours long, if you're not physically fit, you lose mental focus. And when you lose mental focus, you start losing games. So yeah, it might seem like a performance, but like bowling is considered a sport, right?
Yeah, darts is a sport,
Right? Yeah, darts is a sport.
My
Like,
room is tough when I bowl, so it's a sport.
yeah,
It's a sport.
I think anything where if you're using your body, right, like no matter how little or how much it is, and if you're required to maintain intense focus for sustained periods of time, you're probably doing a sport.
And on the flip side of that argument too, I remember growing up doing Irish step dancing and like doing a lot of those kind of things and having the sports bros be this is a sport.
I know.
Yeah.
Dance isn't a sport. Ooh.
And like the cheerleaders too, like there's 2 sports going on at once. Yes, they're freaking is.
Man, I'm sorry, the cheerleaders are in better shape than half of them.
Right.
So the whole thing kind of feels too like a big Venn diagram that has like maybe tiny little exclusionary bits on the ends, but yeah, I'm inclined to agree that if it's...
Well, and I think it gets into kind of one of the next points that we're going to talk about is the idea of gatekeeping, right?
Yeah.
This idea that you have to meet the specific criteria in order to be this specific thing. And I personally cannot stand gatekeeping because, again, if you want to do something, do the thing. Like it shouldn't, there should not be any prerequisite of like, no, you can't do this thing unless, you meet X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, do the thing.
Wait, Chris, you know what? I'm an actor and entertainer, and gatekeeping, this just makes me think of the reason it happens is because those people don't want you taking their spot. Anybody's doing the thing, and they might be good, but like people do that because they just don't want that, and that's just a human condition that sucks.
Yeah, no, it does suck. And and that's the thing though, is that if we can, we got to fight against gatekeeping wherever we see it, no matter where it happens at, right? Like, no gatekeeping in sports, no gatekeeping in nerddom. Let people do the thing.
Yeah, especially when you think about like people who've been in fandoms for a long time. That good sports fandom. Well, it's like, well, you haven't been a Vikings fan if you didn't experience, Gary Anderson's Miss Kick, or you're not a Star Wars fan if you haven't seen the original trilogy. Plenty of people are Star Wars fans who their first experiences with the prequels, and that is a valid nerd experience.
And I love to identify as a fake Marvel fan because I've only seen the movies, haven't read the comics, but here I still am in a Bucky wig, like, okay, fight me. Another part of that too is like the inclusivity aspect, right? Like there's this something that like my other co-panelists are talking about. One of the things I love about the teams I play on is that they're diverse. They're not just diverse in terms of queerness or anything like that, like gender and sexuality, that they are, but there's also folks of different racial backgrounds. I don't see a lot of that as much in the professional hockey world. I see a lot of folks with different disabilities, both invisible and visible. Limb differences are included. Folks with different stuff going on get to play together, and it's really cool. It makes it better.
Green.
Yeah, okay. One thing that we nerds have in common, we have an elevated appreciation for the power of imagination. And the thing is, it makes me think about imagination in sports. Now, my sport is chess, and imagination can be very important in chess when it comes to figuring out how to win material, trap the king, check strategies and the like. And I'm just wondering, other sports that are more physical, what is the power, where is there room for the power of imagination in sports like baseball and football and other more physical sports? Is there somewhere that fits in? Because it's hard to see sometimes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So like, again, one of the big things that you actually get taught in more physical sports is visualizing yourself having success, right? Like imagining yourself in that situation and then seeing what you needed to do to actually accomplish that. So like that is a huge part of sports, is that you have to be able to imagine yourself actually winning, right? Otherwise it's gonna be a lot harder to win. And I've done that. Like there have been like pretty much my pre-game ritual the night before would be visualizing, okay, what is my best punt going to feel like? Like what is that drop going to be? How is it going to feel when I follow through? Putting myself in that situation before I'm actually in it, and then trying to recreate that out on the field. So yeah, I think that's, if you want to have success in anything, I think you should be able to imagine and visualize, like, here's how I'm going to do that, and then do your best to try to accomplish that.
I swear, like, from what I've heard, about 50% of what hockey goalies do is just sit in a room and, like, visualize stuff. It's not maybe literally 50%, but it's probably more like 80%, let's be honest. And they also do a lot of, like reflex stuff with, I think it's, like, I don't know, there's a lot of weird, like, quasi-video game stuff that goalies do. Goalies are weird. We love them. But like visualization is just like such a huge thing in especially the high reflex positions.
And speaking of like quasi video game things, I think one of the new frontiers in this is using VR to train.
Yeah.
I know there's been a lot of things on Vikings Fandom about how even though JJ McCarthy was injured last year, he's going to be fine because he's being a quarterback in VR, and that's his way of training. And maybe that's going to be a success because that.
We just need a quarterback. I don't care.
Yeah.
We just need a quarterback. Please, something just learn. I don't care if it's a 14-year-old. Bring them in there. God damn it, Vikings. All right. Janelle just had a moment, all right? I just needed to let that out.
Janelle, you're so valid. But it's similar in dance, and it's similar even in
In my
like
lifetime,
lower
please.
stakes. Even in like the lower stakes things, it's still similar. Like they tell us, like if you can imagine yourself putting the puck in the net, you can put the puck in the net. You just have to go do it. I can't words. Don't put the puck in the net. That's a bad idea.
Sometimes it gets in the neck, doesn't it?
Yeah,
That's why they
that's why that hurts. Yeah, we're very padded up. It's like you're a little medieval knight going to battle. It's fine. You'll be fine.
Pink X.
Yeah, so I think some really good points have been made about, how there's esports and some of these other competitive aspects of games where the sports bros might be more like inclined to play them. Call of Duty, very competitive, right?
Mad in all the sports games.
Yeah, right, and all the sports games, exactly. So I'm kind of interested, what's the panel's take on, does the competitive aspect draw, sports bros into video games, or does it draw, is there anything with the competitive part of it a factor?
It makes them rage quit. That's what it does. Listen, I'm gonna say one thing about this. The competitive freaking first-person shooter players and sport, they're annoying online. They need to play some Animal Crossing and chill. All right. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that.
Another thing I think is these are a lot of, adult men who spend a ridiculous amount of time together, and sometimes you just need to shoot the other guy in the head. So I think, especially because I know Call of Duty is super popular among, especially NHL players, I think there's a certain amount of, I've spent too much time with this guy, he lost 3 face-offs in a row yesterday, I absolutely need to shoot him in the face until he's dead.
I've definitely never had that thought. What are you talking about?
So for the people who participate in athletics here and also video games, do you think that there are any mutually transferable skills between the sport itself and playing a video game version of it? And I'm thinking about this in the context of Thiago Jota, who is a Liverpool player who very tragically recently passed, but was a very highly ranked FIFA player in addition to being a professional level football player. And so do you have any experience with that, those things helping each other or not helping each other?
So, The only genre of video games I don't play is sports games. However, I am still very competitive. I was in a top US, I think we were ranked 3rd at one point, World of Warcraft rating guild back during Burning Crusade. And I very much approached that the same way I approached football, in that like, I am going to read up on everything I need to know about my class. I'm going to make sure my rotations are correct. I'm going to be leading the DPS meters, and that competitive spirit that sort of brought me forward in football, I'm going to apply that to World of Warcraft as well. And I think there is kind of that crossover that draws, sort of the competitive sports side to the video game side. But I think there's also the reverse that happens, where you get sort of the analytical side in the nerddom, right? The part that really wants to see, numbers work and like put systems together. And then there's fantasy football, right? And then there's ways that, you can be a part of sports without even necessarily like being a specific fandom, but like you appreciate how the system works, and you want you create your own fun within that. And so yeah, I think there definitely are parts of both that draw people to either one.
I don't really like college basketball for like ethical reasons, blah, 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 whatever, but I really love college basketball brackets so much.
It's fun.
Oh my God, it's fun.
So fun.
I'm so bad at it, but all of the math and like reading about it and like, okay, well, what are the odds that the insider is so worth, and like all the like analysis, that is one of my fandoms, man, bracketology.
And I wonder, now that you say that, if there's any relationship between the rise of nerddom and popular culture, and also an embracing of quantification of sports, the Moneyball. Obviously, I think familiarized a lot of people with the importance of analytics in sports, and that's been an ongoing trend. But I'm sure that there's still pushback among more traditional front offices. But
yeah, so I got to see that firsthand actually with the Brad Childers coaching regime. Is that they understood that analytics was important, but they didn't really know how to apply it. So they'd be showing these slides like in team meetings where it's like 23% of the time, if we get the ball on the 25-yard line, right? Like it'll lead to points, right? Which is good information. Okay, yeah, great, guys need to know that. And then they would show the reverse, and it's like, but why did you show the second slide? We can do the math. We don't need to know that 77% of the time it doesn't lead to a score, because you just told us 23% of the time it does lead to a score. So yeah, I think it's been an ongoing thing of like, yes, analytics is a lot more important than a lot of more traditional sports people considered it to be, but they're also feeling their way forward as to, okay, which of these numbers really matter, and how do we apply them, right, in real world situations. And football specifically, you're really starting to see that in attempts on 4th down, right, where teams are far more likely to go for it now on 4th down because they understand.
It's more fun.
Yeah, yes, A, it's more fun.
It's more fun.
But B, just from a pure statistical standpoint, it won't guarantee an individual event, but if you stay true to it over the course of a season, it's going to work more often than not.
And so, the 2-point conversion and shooting threes, same thing.
Right.
Yeah, like the basketball is not the same game that it was.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I take such a different approach to both fandom and sports, where I'm just here to be a himbo and have a fun time. I'm here for the vibes.
Dude, we need himbos.
Preach.
Orange?
Yeah, touching on a couple of things you guys have all said, I was a child of the 80s. I was a kid who ran track and broke all their school records, but was reading all the books in the library and hanging out with the kids on the corner who smoked because they didn't care who hung out with it. I didn't have to be a book person or a sports person, a doctor, nerd. Flash forward now to today, this is actually the first convergence, and I can't remember how long. I am now doing my Clark Kent change because I want to get over to a Minnesota United game during convergence. But what I find very interesting in both nerddom and fandom in the sports world is how there's still levels to it.
Yeah.
Like, I can go to work, to my office, it's okay for you to wear your Vikings jersey, I cannot wear my Aurora jersey.
And that's stupid.
That's
Can you give me a figure, boss?
Your Aurora jerseys are so cute also.
I'm gonna fight that. When I'm in charge of the world, I'll fix it.
I mean, I'm already down to fight your boss if you need me to.
Yeah. I'm a murder doll. Let me take it.
Well, and again, I think that gets back to the whole gatekeeping aspect, right? Where it's like certain things are considered more socially acceptable than others, when it's, no, everyone has a hobby. Like, everyone should be allowed to enjoy their hobby. It doesn't matter if it's the same as mine or not. Like, I like to do my things, you should get to do your things.
You know what, Chris? Actually, this is all, as I'm sure everybody here is going to say yes, is the core of this is that people are always scared and do not like seeing things that they're not familiar with. So that's just the core of it. If someone's really into anime, you've never seen anime, what? They look crazy. That's weird. Like, that's just the core of the human condition. And it sucks that it, it involves both of these big fandoms that people love. And it, as always, why can't we all just love each other and be happy?
Right. Yeah. We just need some more acceptance.
It's just crazy. I'm like, get over it.
Something.
Great start.
Sports.
Okay, so 2 quick things. Number 1, your quarterback's going to be fine. The neurological research actually shows.
You better be serious.
That
I'm sick of being sad.
visualization and VR practice and mocking up and going through, there is conclusive proof. It counts at about 80% of the level of actual practice of a thing.
Okay, otherwise Chris is coming out of retirement and he's gonna throw for us. He's gonna throw, I don't care.
So good news for you, it probably will work. Now, I don't know if that means they'll win, but it probably will work. But I've had some thoughts about gatekeeping in fandom that I wanted to hear you guys say more about, which is, okay, so I grew up in New York as a baseball fan, as a Yankees fan, and then converted.
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry.
Be nice, everybody, we accept here.
I lived in Boston for 25 years, I converted, but
Congratulations on your correct opinions.
a lot of thoughts about gatekeeping in sports fandom, and of course we're all familiar with the you're not a real geek girl, or you're not a real comics fan, or whatever. Right. And going through that process with, moving and switching teams, I realized, like, wow, that sports fans do that too. Why do you think, I get why people gatekeep what is a sport, what is an actor. Why do we gatekeep what is a thing?
Because people are insecure as heck.
Yeah, it makes them feel more important. If they're like, oh, I'm the real fan, I'm the arbiter of the truth, you are lesser who does not know as much. And
Oh, you're not a real, you think you're a Wild fan? Oh, well, name 3 of their last GMs. That sort of crap. Like,
cares?
first of all,
You like
I
that
can't
band
because I've
songs, yeah.
intentionally forgotten the middle guy's name.
And I think nerddom and sports fandom both are deeply integral to a lot of people's identity, right? And so sometimes if you feel insecure in that, you feel insecure in your own identity.
There's also a gender component to it as well. I see a lot of that abuse leveled at women and AFAB folks more often than not. It's the same thing, like I was just kind of mentioning like the band nonsense where people go, you like that band name 3 of their songs, just like you mentioned with the GMs. It's so nonsense. Like my sister could tell people way more Bruins facts than I can, but she's not gonna, or I'm gonna get called a fake fan way less than she is, even though she's way more of a real fan than I am.
Okay, I'm just gonna put some logic out here. Okay, I'm gonna drop some knowledge. And as a younger person in general, in the society of the world, this has been one of the most frustrating things of my life. And I genuinely am gonna try to be the person who doesn't do this. You take this as you will, this is my opinion, and I think it works. So when it comes to anything in fandom, whether it is sports or nerddom or anything, the people that don't know things that you know, obviously, it's a thing that scares you sometimes. Like, oh God, like that's weird, right? Or I don't like that, or why don't you know this, or what they're saying, like, can't you name all these things? I've been trying my hardest to not be that person. I'm getting to an age now where people younger than me do not know the references that I know. And it is a weird feeling to go from being in the trends to not knowing immediately the trends. And my identity is scared right now, okay? But what I'm saying is, I've talked to high schoolers and I'll be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I love Hilary Duff. Her Metamorphosis album changed my life. And they're like, who? What is that? And instead of me going, what? You don't know who Hilary Duff is? Are you crazy? Are you living under a rock? What are your parents doing? Like, I'm choosing to go, oh, you don't? Well, here's a great song by her, check her out. Because I, as a younger person, hated, I'm calling y'all boomers out, when I would say that, they'd go, what? Wait, you know Kool and the Gang? But you weren't born in the 70s? Wait, you saw that movie? How would you know that? You weren't alive then. Like, that mentality is why we have gatekeeping, I feel like. Instead, go, let me show you, here's an example, here's something I can suggest. I hope you get into this like I do. And I think that'll make the community just open up more. I'm working very hard to never put that judgment on anybody for not knowing something that I'm super into. And I preached a little there, so thank you. Amen.
That's so Riz.
Say that's cringe.
No, I said that's so Riz.
Also consider like for some.
And Chris used it wrong, and I will judge him. And I will judge him for that. On God, let me go. Let me get that Gen Z out. I can get the Gen Z slang. Come on, I'm there. I'm young still. I'm still young.
Sorry, in the back.
You're all amazing. Another thing too, like consider like older fandoms, like even things like Pride and Prejudice or like other books that we love, or like things like Godzilla. Are you a fake Godzilla fan if you haven't seen like old movies ever? No. Are you a fake Pride and Prejudice fan because you weren't there when the book came out? No, it was hundreds of years ago. Get over it.
I wasn't alive.
I didn't have the chance to be a fan in the 80s because I didn't exist until 1991. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm doing my best.
Well, and I think the point is if you really do care about something, you should be excited to share that thing with other people. Like that really is kind of what it is. So.
Yeah.
It's the XKCD Lucky 10,000 thing.
Yes, exactly.
If you haven't seen that XKCD panel, it's,
You're so excited to share with them.
Right, I'm very excited to share it with you, but it basically does the math about how if there's this many people in the world who were born in any given year, then there's roughly 10,000 people per day who may not have heard of some particular new thing, and they're the lucky 10,000, and you are the lucky person who gets to introduce them to it.
One last thing. The show I did last night that none of you came to, it's a pop culture reference show that I did for the Minnesota Fringe Festival. I would literally say in it, I am a millennial Gen Z. Most of my references come from that. And a lot of people in the audience had no idea what I was talking about when I said Allie and AJ, or when I said Pretty Little Liars. They didn't know. But I hope I enlighten them on something, and then they can enlighten me on things I don't know about Star Trek or Doctor Who. Okay?
Green in the back.
I was wondering if people could comment about sort of like rivalries between fans. Something like Vikings versus Packer rivalry, different from like Star Trek versus Star Wars. But then there are similarities too. Just kind of wondering about the commentary on that.
Rivalries are a lot of fun, just don't take them too far.
Yeah.
So I'm from Boston, where we professionally take those too far. Like, I was never really into sports as a kid, and I just watched them because that's what we did at my house. Like, we would put the game on and eat, and like, that was the thing we did. Kind of similarly, we would watch Star Wars. That was the thing we did. And, like, my house is a Star Wars Boston sports fan house. It is not a Star Trek house. I just never grew up with it. I just didn't. And then I started dating somebody from Texas, and he called me a Yankee once, and I told him if he ever called me that slur again, we would be broken up, and we're still together because he learned.
He learned.
I'm very sorry he called you that.
Thank you.
My brother is not really a baseball fan. He moved to New York City and turned into a Brooklyn hipster, and he came home one time wearing a Yankees hat, and my whole family was like, you gotta burn that thing.
Oh yeah, no, my cousin married a man from New York, but he was a Mets fan, so he was acceptable.
Oh, that's fair. My aunt passed away a few years ago, but she was still mad at the Yankees about a trade that I have forgotten from like the 50s.
Oh, the curse of the Bambino?
They hold those grudges,
Yes,
they
that
do. They hold them.
Trauma stays with you. So.
Yeah,
I was in middle school when that curse was broken, and it was like a week-long party. It was incredible.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think rivalries, people enjoy rivalries.
Yeah, it's
right?
fun. Healthy competition.
It's fun. It's fun to talk trash against each other.
Yeah.
It's fun to have a reasonable level of hate that doesn't lead to physical violence or threats or things of that nature. So yeah, no, I think there is a place for rivalry, but if you're going to engage in that, you also really have to be hyper vigilant on yourself of, am I taking this too far?
Yeah.
Because if you take it too far, you're the problem. It's not the other person that's the problem, you have become the problem.
And it's important to recognize that, again, even if those things are fun, that we have more in common as fans of rival groups than we do. And oftentimes we have things that unite us. For instance, as NFL fans are uniting in a hatred of the business practices of the NFL.
Right?
Any other hockey fans in here gonna boo Gary Bettman with me?
Well, I was really excited that
Very
I'm so sorry. I have ADHD. It's hard not to talk over people. A Providence Bruins player got traded to the Wild, so I'm a little excited. A little taste of homecoming here. I'm still pissed at the Bruins for trading two of my favorite players to the Florida Panthers of all teams. Their rival. It's painful.
It could have been Montreal.
That may have been less painful.
We have about 5 minutes left. Orange circle.
one of the things I've found really fun when being into sports and being into fandom is finding basically press outlets that cover both entertainment and sports. Like, for example, the ringer.com does an excellent job of covering fandom and sports and kind of looking at each one through the lens of that. So like looking at entertainment through the lens of sports and then looking at sports through the lens of fandom, and that's always super fun. So stuff like that I find really good.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, again, that shows where people have more in common than they think, right? Like, human beings are very complex creatures. Like, we contain multitudes, right? We're allowed to like a whole bunch of different stuff. And sometimes those things intersect, sometimes those things don't. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings. Like, we all need to be able to get along with each other and understand each other and understand that sometimes you might not get what that other person likes, and that's okay. Like, I think my wife was saying the other day, it's some saying she had found, I think from her kids actually, it's like, just don't yuck my yum, right? Like, if I like something, like, just don't make it crappy, and I'll do the same for you. And I think really that's the important thing, is that respecting each other and understanding that, yeah, we all like something. It might not be the same thing, but we all like something.
I mean, how long has vilification tennis been present at CONvergence? Probably longer than
2 years.
Yeah, probably longer than I've been alive. It's amazing.
Blue circle.
So as sports fans or people who engage in sports, how do you navigate or hold space for the things that are in your sports fandom that are problematic or difficult, like CTE or racism or abuse of the players? And how do you hold space for that in your own space? And also when your friends who aren't fans come at you with like, yeah, but.
Oh, I have a whole 2,000 word rant about specifically the state of hockey romance, which is a thing that has gotten very popular. And why has hockey romance gotten popular? It's real freaking simple. Hockey players are all white. Not 100%. There are black players. Honest to God, I've read hockey romances that have players who are white, but the problem is the sport I love is extremely, incredibly white. I do not love that. I've given money to causes to deal with that. I got mad when the Wild in one season traded all 3 of their non-white players. That was real good. Loved it when that happened. Still miss Matt Dumbo. And it's just, I think there's non-trivial ways to acknowledge that there are problems with every sport, whether it's, the fact that the commissioner doesn't admit that hockey players ever get concussions. Sidney Crosby has something to say about that. And all these other, it's things all the way from things that happen to the players to things that the players do themselves that are horrifying. Patrick Kane can die in a fire. And there's a lot of people who want their sports to be uncomplicated. I am the literal opposite of that.
Yeah, and we can use some of the same strategies we use for our other nerddom things, like take time and money that we spend on things that have authors who have deeply troubling beliefs, many of the other things, and maybe just dedicate the same amount of time and money to a cause that you believe in and support, and hope that karmically those things cancel each other out.
Yeah, it's just a really tough thing, right? Because we don't live in a perfect world. I mean, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. There's a reason that's a saying. Same goes for sports, same goes for nerd fandom, goes for the brands you buy. It goes for the world you live in. And we just have to do our best to try to fix that when we see it. And ultimately, it's going to come down to your own personal decision, right? What is your red line in the sand where, okay, at this point, I am done. And that might be different from person to person. And, we can't really judge each other for that because we don't know each other's circumstances. Yeah. All we can do is try to make things better in our own way. And, for some people, it might be okay, yeah, no, this is my red line in the sand. I'm not going to spend money on this anymore. And other people might be well, yeah, no, that really sucks, but I still feel like I can, I can enjoy this thing. So yeah, it's ultimately a personal decision. It's what you gotta make yourself.
And something I witnessed firsthand, because I don't play for WHAM, which is Women's Hockey Association of Minnesota. Just anything labeled women's instantly gives me too much dysphoria. But it's a really cool organization that exists. And a friend of mine, I'm getting emotional talking about this, but A friend of mine from Team Trans was playing in Wham, and she was experiencing a lot of anti-trans bigotry from people on her team who were, labeled TERFs on purpose, trans exclusionary radical feminists, and they didn't even know she was trans until she came out to them, and then they were awful to her. And we organized a lot of Team Trans players and Twin Cities Queer hockey players, and then we organized a crowd of them. It included rugby teams and roller derby teams, and it was so damn cool seeing all of these wonderful different queer athletes show up for each other. And the turf player did not even show up to her own game that day because she was too scared of us, and we were just there to be fans. And stuff like that, making our voices heard, organizing, connecting, and like, I love my two teams, but their leadership doesn't get along. It's really unfortunate. I'm gonna put them in the get along jersey and turn the Zamboni around. I will dad voice them if I have to, but it's great and hard and wonderful and terrible and all the things, because it's fandom.
And I think that's a good note to end on as our panel is over. But if our panelists want to just go down quickly and plug anything else they have going on for the rest of the convention. Kendrick, do you want to start?
Give me a moment to pull up my sketch. So I'll start.
I can start if you want. I am on the main, actually I don't know if I'm on the main stage. It's 7 p.m. tonight, and would I lie to you? We'll see if I can lie to you. And then tomorrow I'm doing a very similar panel at 12:30 called Nights of Sports Ball, which, yeah, that should be pretty fun.
Shocking.
Yep, and then other than that, I'm going to be around the convention. I've got some other panels going on, but yeah, come say hi.
Thank you for the break, Chris. I am now ready. I will also be on sword myths and misconceptions later because I am a huge swords nerd. Super fun. And then I will also be on the parasocial relationships panel. I believe that's tomorrow. And how to have a hobby without turning into a hustle on Sunday.
I'm not doing anything else for the rest of the con. That's a complete lie. I'm on no more panels, however. On the other hand, if it's during the hockey season and you follow me on Blue Sky, you'll find stuff yells about hockey pretty frequently as the tag I use, so that people who don't want to see that can just filter it out. Curse it, Gary Bettman. I'm Steph Cranford on most social media. You can also just come talk to me. I've been nerve herders most mornings.
Once again, I'm Janelle. Love CONvergence, love Comic-Cons. Grateful to be here, you guys. And the other things I'm doing is, if you want to come check me out, tonight at 11:30, late night shenanigans, I'm doing the Hear Me Out cake panel. That's gonna happen. I got some wild ones, you guys, and I will be drinking because let's go. And then tomorrow, I'm gonna be doing the 9:30 a.m. Managing Financial Expectations as an Artist panel. I'm doing well at that. And then Sunday, I'm going to be doing, at 11 a.m., I'm doing a Wish School Taught That panel. Other than that, like I said, I'm a performer and entertainer, and you guys, an actor. I do have a show coming up here. I'm from Minnesota. I did move to Chicago to pursue the dream, pursue the goals a little bigger, but I'm doing the Minnesota Fringe Festival again this year in a show called Comfort Zone Presents Chemistry. Me and my improv duo partner, Ryan Klima, we do crazy improv, and the show is going to be an awesome time at the Minnesota Fringe Festival. I have postcards if you'd like one. Otherwise, if you want to follow Janelle's journey, I got business cards, QR code on the back. Follow me on socials, hit me up. Let's have a good rest of the con, y'all.
Thank you.